Welcome back. This is your host, Kristi Slaughter, on SuperTalk Saturday Mornings on WFHG 92.9. We're joined with my special guest, Vicki Salloum. She is the author of Waiting for You at Midnight. Good morning, Vicki.
Hi, Kristi. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
It's so good to be here. Thank you.
Vicki, this is not your first book, but it is the latest book that is being released. One of the things that I got to look at the book and read some ahead of time, and it really touches on a lot of subjects that we as people in general are faced with. So if you don't mind, if our listeners have not got to see your work in the past, why are you passionate about taking some of the things that you've personally gone through in your life and create something like Waiting for You at Midnight and being able to really help give information and comfort other people?
Kristi, it's partly autobiographical. Most of it is made up, but I went through this. My husband passed away less than 3 years ago, and a couple of weeks before he passed away, some people came over to celebrate his birthday with him. We were eating ice cream and cake, and somebody asked me, "What are you writing now?" And I said, "Nothing." And my husband looked at me and he says, "But you'll be writing about this." And he meant about his illness and about what we went through, what we were going through together. And I said, "No, I won't." Just the thought of going through the sickness and the terrible things that happen when you get very, very sick. No way did I want to write about that. But he knew I write about everything that happens to me. So he passed away a couple of weeks after that. And I found that, I didn't really have anybody to talk to honestly about what I was going through. I was in a lot of pain, a lot of grief. So I started writing to my best friend, who happened to be my dead husband, in a spiral notebook, just to get out things that were really going on with me. And it became the book, actually. It became the story of our life together, and what he went through, and my life as a widow. And again, I say a lot of it is made up, but the tone and the voice, they're real. And after I finished it, I thought, there may be somebody else who doesn't have really anybody to talk about what's really going on with them. Maybe they could get something out of this book. So I started sending it around, and it got published.
Vicki, how beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. What was it like for you once you saw all of this come together in the actual book? Take me to that time, to that moment when you first saw everything come together that you had been working on.
It's so emotional and it's so private. It's like you're writing in a diary, and when you're writing it, it's just you and what you're writing, and it's just very personal. And then when it all came together, I saw this is just a story. I hate to say this, but I thought it was so beautiful. How it came together at a fictional universe. And I thought, it's not just thoughts. It's kind of, I hate to say this, I'm telling you this. I felt it was my own private work of art, and I wanted to share it with somebody else. Other people may not think it is, but it just came together as a fictional story that was honest, and I thought it deserved to be a novel. So that's what I did.
Vicki, how instrumental was writing this book for you in the healing process through going through grief with the loss of your husband?
It was so comforting to me to be able to write this. I'm a writer, and the thing that I love to do more than anything else is just to write. So it took a lot of part of the day, and I love doing it. And most of all, I love just getting out really honest thoughts that I had and the honest emotions. Sometimes you write a book and it's really not about something that's honest. It's meant maybe to be entertaining. But this was meant, it was like a truth about a human condition. It was like a soul in turmoil. And I thought, that's what people ought to be sharing with other people. It's kind of like a gift to them, something that's real.
Vicki, do you find that sometimes we're more honest when we're writing than we are just maybe sharing with a friend? I recently have been doing some journaling and have a new system that I'm doing, and my daughter, who's a teenager, asked if she could read it, and I said, sure. She started reading just a couple pages, and she said, you're more honest here than you really are just speaking with her. It's like a vulnerability, maybe. Do you find that when you're writing?
Absolutely. It's really just your soul coming out, and it's the most real you will ever be when you're writing. I find that it's not that I'm not honest when I'm talking with other people, but I'm shielding what's really going on, and it's not really helpful. It's very shallow. The way we communicate with other people in our lives, we don't really let other people know what we're really thinking. At least I don't. But in writing, you just get down to your very soul, and it's what really is. I mean, it's the best part of you, I think. It's a matter of dignity. People will ask you, "How are you?" Meaning, how are you getting through this? How are you? And you don't want to tell them how you really feel. It's not dignified, and I don't know if they really want to know that. I remember when my grandmother, she used to, when people would ask her, how are you? And she would just go ahead and tell them everything that was going on with her, and her daughters would say, Mama, they don't really want to know how you're feeling. Just tell them I'm doing great, and also, with my own family, they live in another state, and they're very supportive. But I find that to tell people how you really feel, it's kind of humiliating. Like, you don't want people to feel sorry for you, so you keep that part of you inside of you. But with writing, it's like you're just talking to yourself, and so there is no shield there. There's no barrier.
Vicki, let's discuss just for a few minutes, if it's okay with you, about the double standard that sometimes persists with women who are widowed or divorced, who are older, and how that's different from men who are divorced or older.
Kristi, I have a lot of cousins who are widows, and they seem to be content with their lives, not dating or not, trying to find another relationship. It seems that way. It seems like they're happy with their grandchildren. They're happy being with their family, and so that doesn't seem to be a part of their lives. But there must be women, and I've never really talked to people about this so much. There must be women who really would love to share their lives with somebody else. And maybe they feel ashamed to talk about it, and people, it's like a secret. But I just felt like I'd never really read a book like this where a woman is just flat out, she wants to find someone to love and to share her life with, and she goes after it because she's feeling so much pain. And I don't really talk about women to women about what's going on with them in their lives after they're widowed or divorced. So I don't know what's going on with them. I only wanted to write about what was going on with me. This is the main character in the book is Arabella. This is her story, and this is how she handles grief. I'm not so sure if other women handle grief in the same way.
I think there's a lot of undertones about dating and relationships and getting older, especially being a woman, that we don't discuss. And maybe if we did, like things like your book, maybe people would be more open to discussing what their true desires and needs are.
It's almost like it's unseemly for a woman over a certain age to want romance and to want joy and to want love, that you're not supposed to be wanting those things when you get of a certain age. And what I found was shocking to me when I got, my husband passed away and I was an older woman. I found it shocking that I felt like an 18-year-old. I wanted to find somebody today. It's like all those years you're married to someone, and that sense of looking out there is completely gone, and you're just totally happy with who you're having in your life. And all of a sudden, when that person is gone, you are just looking for romance, and you're looking for someone to fill that void. And, I just suspect that it happens with so many people, but I think the image out there is when a woman reaches a certain age, it's not dignified to want that, or it just doesn't exist, this desire for a beautiful, loving, romantic relationship.
Vicki, we need to take a quick commercial break. Can you stay with us for just a few minutes?
Sure.
We'll be back here in just a moment. This is your host, Kristi Slaughter, on SuperTalk Saturday Mornings. Welcome back. This is your host, Kristi Slaughter, on SuperTalk Saturday Mornings on WFHG. We're back with my special guest, Vicki Salloum. She is the author of Waiting for You at Midnight. Good morning, Vicki.
Good morning.
We were discussing your new book and the main character. It's a female character. And you were discussing some of your personal things that came up during your journey after the loss of your husband. What about the way we end up coping with grief and loss? Addiction, maybe possibly not becoming very social, staying at home a lot more. Can you discuss some of those types of things, and can readers find some of those issues in your book?
It's what Arabella is looking for is to try to find a worthwhile life for herself, and she's searching for honesty and for a truthful life. And it gets kind of complicated because she's out there and she's discovering she's not thinking clearly. Grief will do that to you. Her thinking is very muddled, and that first year of her widowhood becomes a mess. She thinks messed up, she acts messed up, she gets involved with the wrong men, and she's just not thinking clearly. And plus, and in addition to that, she's a woman of the Deep South, and she has certain beliefs and values. And she believes that, but there's another part of her that's sort of a bohemian. But she likes men who are, not as conservative and traditional as her family. But she doesn't belong to either world. So she's out there trying to find out who she really is, what she really believes, what she wants for her life. And in addition to that, she's a recovering alcoholic. She's been in Alcoholics Anonymous for over 20 years. She's been sober for that long. And then terrible things happen to her in this year of her widowhood, and she has to find a way to cope with those things. And she uses the AA program to do that coping. It's just a year that is so confusing, and she's just trying to find her way out of it to a life that, she can have some peace of mind.
Vicki, do you think that sometimes when we have been in a relationship for a long period of time, part of our identity is based within that relationship, and then after that relationship ends, whether it's through separation, divorce, or the loss of a spouse, that we go through this process of sort of learning who we are again?
This is what happened to Arabella. She goes through this process of learning who she is. It's not something she would want to go through, but it's something that she has to go through in order to find what she's looking for. And I have to tell you, I read a book. This is shortly after my husband died, and I was in a lot of grief. And I went to my church to belong to this kind of spiritual group connected to my church. and one of the priests told me about this Catholic priest who had written a book called Against an Infinite Horizon. And in this book, the priest, Father Ronald Rollheiser, he wrote this: "It is not our strengths that give us depth and character, but our weaknesses. We grow by first falling apart. Almost always, deep growth takes place through our deaths, our losses, our dark nights of the soul." And I'm finding, and Arabella finds that out. She couldn't find what she's looking for unless she went through what she went through and exactly the way she went through it. There was just no other way for her.
How beautiful, Vicki. So in essence, she found herself, and when she found herself, then what she desired came.
Yeah, it was through spiritual growth, and she did find herself.
Before I let you go, Vicki, how big of an influence has spirituality been for you personally through this transition process in your life?
It's been huge. I mean, it has been huge. I've always believed in God, but this program of Alcoholics Anonymous, it's taught me about getting connected to a higher power, which, happens to be God in my case. And it's taught me how to follow the spiritual path that brings me so much peace and happiness. And, I'm just so grateful for it. If I didn't have a spiritual strength, it would be very difficult to navigate the things that you have to navigate in this world.
Thank you so much for being with us this morning, Vicki, and thank you for writing this book. It's an honor to have you here. If people would like to find more information about your book and get a copy, where can they do that?
It's on Amazon, and it will soon be in some of the local bookstores here in New Orleans. I've got a lot of events that I'm going to be talking with, but mostly they can find on any online bookstore like Amazon. And Kristi, thank you so much. I've enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you, Vicki. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. On my Facebook page, we've got a copy of the front of the book so people can see that as well. Thank you again. Hope you have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to be back here in just a few minutes. This is your host, Kristi Slaughter, on SuperTalk Saturday Mornings.